up the notes, hitting the go live button. I'll sure if I forgot something, I'll remember it at some point. Here we go. Corley Moore, Firehouse Vigilance, weekly scrap number 131. This one took a while to make happen. I'm not going to lie. We've been talking about it almost for a year. Is that true?
Oh, I think it's been longer than a year, but yeah.
It is. Rob Fisher, suburban firefighter from the Pacific Northwest, a student of the job for 34 years strong, currently a battalion chief, and did 20 years as a company officer. He's been involved technical rescue, peer support, training, you name it. He instructs with Brothers in Battle, CF Tactics, the Roof Pervs, the Highwaymen. He is active on social media and is one of the reasons that there is a positive vibe in social media. And I mean that as a big compliment. His most recent endeavor being Young Officers on Fire. He is a very active member of the Fools, both locally and internationally. And lastly, and most importantly, he is a family man and proud of it. Chief Rob Fisher, it is my pleasure to have you as a guest on Weekly Scrap number 131.
Oh, Corley, thank you. I am honored to be amongst some of the greats. It is funny how it's taken us this long to get to this point, but it is good that we finally got it off the ground. We were talking about trying to do it live while we were at
Yes.
Water on the Fire last year and
Yes.
see if we can pull that off. But I'm excited to be here. So let's make this happen.
A lot of people ask me that. I'm just not technically, if you get me out of my little office here, I'm not technically savvy enough to make it happen. That's my problem. So, but no, 100% trying to make it happen. Anything I missed in the, like boiling down everything you've been involved in was extremely tough to get a succinct introduction, man. I'm telling you, it was like, I'm just touching high points.
Yeah.
So,
I don't want to sound like I'm, trying to be somebody bigger than I am. But we did I did podcast with Jeff Bryant and the guys from Fire Nuggets, and we got done like in the first half an hour. He said, we just went over his intro.
right. No. And this is the crazy part for me is literally everybody I talk to, when they say, hey, who's coming up next on the scrap? I'm like, Rob Fisher. Like, oh, I got a Rob Fisher. Mo Davis was in town just teaching a class, and I got to run down to the hotel and meet him at the hotel bar for like 30 minutes, just say hi, give him a hug, that kind of thing. And he's like, oh, dude, you got to bring up the time when Kurt asked us to do a class the next day, and we stayed up all night. He goes, I didn't do anything. He said, basically, Rob built the entire class, and then we taught it the next day.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Mo is incredible, and I wished I would have met Mo years ago.
Yes.
I just recently met Mo. Probably it's been max 2 years, but I'd heard of him. Of course, I had seen his video when he was taking on the city and all the the BS that was going on in his department. But yeah, so that story is we were at John Norman was supposed to be doing the ODP, and Todd Edwards came up to us. Todd was kind of coordinating all the classes and said, hey, and John couldn't show up because of COVID. And so everybody was kind of like piecing together and lecturing for John Norman. And so Todd Edwards comes to me and says, hey, would you mind doing a lecture on truck operations out of Norman's book? And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Are you serious?
I am nowhere near the level that John Norman is. And so I ended up talking to Mo, and Mo's like, yeah, we can do this. We can do this, man. We'll be all over this. And we stayed up, and we were probably up until 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, building a PowerPoint for the next morning. And we drank a little bit of whiskey, and we had a great time. And I think the class was good. Mo had a good time. I had a great time, and I think the students got a lot out of it. So it was quite the honor to teach with Mo and to step in and kind of teach out of the Norman book.
And you guys both, your guys' stories both intersect and cross, and who they give credit to. Both of you guys, the exact same story, just who gets the credit depends on who's telling it, man. That's amazing. If you have questions for Chief Rob Fisher, if you have questions and it comes up during, man, post them in the chat. We will get to them. Kyle Romagus is in the house. He is looking for your questions. He is going to post them right here. So we're going to get to them. If you find value in the scrap, go to firehousevigilance.com and support it. We got stuff in the works for those who do support it. But my whole goal, and I tell people this every scrap now, is I never want to sit here and read you guys commercials. So this is my commercial that I'm reading you that I said I'd never do, which is go support it. So bottom line is we're ready to get into some topics. Before we do, I'm going to catch you up because I've got Kyle Thon saying, yeah, Rob, with 5 B's. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to like ribbit that. All hell reps. Oh yeah. Steve Robertson said, looking good, fellas. So that's obviously aimed towards you. Legend. One of the nicest guys you'll meet from Clay McGee. Rob Fisher is the man from Joey Hayes. Dude, hey buddy, McGee watching. That's from McGee Graham. Dude, so many people right here. Robbie is a big mentor of mine. I'm not going to read everybody. Reverend Bob Fisher. Let's go. The legend is in the house. Rob Fisher is one of my favorite humans on earth. That does come from Kyle Romagus and Smoothbore Cartel. Pretty sure there is not a more genuine human being than Rob Fisher. That comes from Adam Neff. Okay, like I said, I can't read them all, dude. It's just, it keeps going on in that vein for like the next 20 minutes. So, Jay Bonifield has the first question coming at you. Are you ready for it?
Well, hang on. No, Jay's going to have to hold on.
Okay.
Jay, well, first of all, I was like, I just heard Romagus is your producer, or
he is the volunteer, the guy that makes sure I quit missing. Basically, we sat down one day and he said, dude, you're missing too many questions coming at you. And I'm like, well, here's the problem. I have trouble focusing on the guest, focusing on the audience, and he's like, well, I'll do it. And so far he's been in every one since then. And so, yeah.
Well, I give like Romagus, I'm his production guy for his podcast with Nisbet and Bonifield, and I'm like, he's doing it for you. I'm like, how does that work out? But yeah, I wanted to say I appreciate all the awesome comments by everybody, and I think it will tie to a lot of the conversation we'll have about networking. And so I've been very fortunate over the years. So I've got, I guess I could say I got a lot of people on my side. And then the other thing, Kyle, it looks like Thon, but it's Tone. And so that's for Kyle. I know Tone. Yeah. It doesn't look he's
probably told me that like 10 times. Okay. So you're probably number 11, and I will still say Thon the next time I read it. Cause I don't process. I just read. And sometimes it's to my detriment.
Yeah, I got you. All right, so let's hear what Bonifield has.
Well, he followed up and said, "Don't silence me, Rob." Okay, so he said, I don't even know if it's a serious question. Like I said, Rob, everyone here at Station 1 wants to know if you color your mustache gray to look like you have more wisdom. Also, at Zero says, "Get to the chopper."
Yeah, that's kind of funny. No, I don't color my mustache. It is natural. I don't color any hair on my body. So I don't want to say that this is wisdom. This is just getting older. And yeah, Bonifield's at Station 1, which is it's an urban city in our county, and it's a good house, busy house to be at. And at Cerro he used to be one of our part-time firefighters and worked on the ladder truck with us many years ago. And Nick is a captain with that department, a good captain. And so there's a lot of stories. I mean, but yeah, get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper. Okay. And I want this last comment I'll read, and I'll get to the questions, which is Kyle Tone said, "Ha ha ha, thanks, Chief." So I wanted to get it right this one time. It'd probably be the last time, but that's okay. All right, pulling them up. Here we go. The Fools. That's the first one on your list, and it's the first one I wanted to start with. So talk to me about what it means to you and how much you're involved in it.
I probably would not be the firefighter I am today if it wasn't for the Fools. And it's real easy to say that, but the connections, the networking, the values, the passion. So if it wasn't for getting into this group, I probably wouldn't be where I'm at today. And I think some of my problems that I have, challenges, I should say maybe some of my challenges is a result of being the Fools. And I'm okay in my career and my life right now to say I don't really give a shit. So I love being a part of the Fools. So if individuals have problems with the Fools and have problems, think that I'm well, you know what? It is what it is. So, yeah, the Fools, how this all came about was after 9/11, I was attending a class in California, and a really salty Sacramento City truck captain from Truck 7, Kevin Trost. We were on a roof getting ready to do some roof operations. Bob Pressler was there. and we were going to be doing circ saw operations on basically a flat roof built in about the 50s. So this is pretty cool.
Okay.
And he says, how many of you are fools? And my driver, and maybe we'll talk about Chad a little bit, but my driver and I look at each other and like, what the hell is he talking about? And he says, I tell you what, we'll talk about that when we get done with all this work and we're in the bar and we're in the pub and having some drinks. And he explained what the Fools were. And it was basically an organization of people who are passionate about the job, passionate about tradition in the fire service, and just, remembering our fallen brothers and sisters and are into the job. And that was like, holy cow, I just found my brother.
Yes.
My brothers, this spoke to me. Because being from a smaller department at the time, we didn't have any outlet for this. We're from the West Coast. So the idea of being in the firehouse and all the brotherhood and sisterhood that goes on in the firehouse just wasn't really happening in our neck of the woods. And so this just like really spoke to us. And so long story short, and unless you have any questions or you want to get further into it, but basically we had a chapter start in our area. It's called the Puget Sound Fools. Quickly became an e-board member on the local chapter. Yes, nice.
Focus, maybe.
Yeah, there it is, right there. Perfect. And so we had this chapter and got on the e-board in the local chapter, and then I think it was about 2012, 2013. The international e-board asked if I was interested in coming in and filling the shoes of Mike Dugan as the education or the training trustee. And I'm like, holy cow.
Excuse me?
Yeah. How do you fill Mike? Well, literally and figuratively,
right.
How do you fill Mike Dugan's shoes? Right. But that's how I came onto the e-board. And then just recently, I've stepped down from the education position. Actually, we changed roles and I accepted a position as the West Coast regional rep. So I've got 40 chapters in my region.
Nice.
Washington. Yeah. So we're having some communication issues in the international. It's pretty big. And so we're trying to create regions so that we can communicate better. So that's where I went.
And so you're really just I'm not trying to say really just, but coordinating all of those. Have you noticed it? Man, all I know of the Fools, I'm not a big in the international or anything like that. I'm Johnny come lately to the Fools, to be honest. And so all I know is my local chapter, Mid-America Fools, OKC Metro. And I love them. But is it just, does it come down to the passion that's in the individual membership and the individual leadership, or what's your experience with that?
Well, I think it comes down to a lot of the passion of each individual chapter. And that's, we have chapters or just superstar chapters, and I'll just use our chapter as an example. When it first started, we were upwards of like 250 members in our chapter. And now we're a smaller chapter, about 50 members. We were very active back in the 2000s, early 2000s. And, there's chapters out there that fold every once in a while. And so, it has a lot to do with passion and just, keeping the ball moving forward. The one thing that I love about the Fools is that most everybody, when you're going to, and you go to a lot of conferences, yes, Corley, so this, but you meet guys and gals, and a lot of them are Fools members. And so the best instructors were, in what I was starting to experience, they were Fool members. And that's why I wanted to be a part of it. And it just put me into the right fold of the right people. And that I really do owe a lot of this and, my social media success and all this other stuff to the Fools.
And I got a question coming from the audience, which I want to hit on since we're talking Fools. And he said, how do you apply to start a local chapter? And so just a quick dart if you want to throw that.
Oh, yeah. You can just email secretary@foolsinternational.com and let them know that you're interested in starting a chapter. And there's some basic things that need to happen. You got to have an e-board or create an e-board. But yeah, it's not hard to start a chapter, and it doesn't cost much at all. So secretary@foolsinternational.com.
Love it. All right. First question coming at you from the audience. Christopher Armiger wants to know, and this is coming from Kyle Romigas. He cultivated this question out of there. He said, how do I hire people who give a shit, service-oriented people? Everyone who's testing is worried if we have a Kelly or how much PPL they get. Their number one concern is time off before they even put their first day in. Next is pay. Third is t-shirts or polos. Then maybe they are into what the job actually is. How do I hire people who want to work at work? So there's no softballs. So here we go.
Yeah, that's definitely not a softball.
If you can answer that one, we'll just send you to the Middle East and you can work for peace.
Yeah, that's a really tough one. I think being in the Pacific Northwest and on the West Coast in general, a lot of the testing that goes on for firefighters is it's challenging, and I think you could see that there would be an argument over, are we correctly testing for the right individuals coming into the fire service? So we're doing a lot of hiring in my department right now, and we've had changing in how we've done testing over the years. I would say, generally speaking, we've done really good in hiring the right individuals for the positions. Where we're lacking, and I can speak only from my department, but where we're lacking is we should be recruiting from colleges. And I know that kind of some are going to be going, what?
Rolling their eyes, right? No.
Yeah, they're rolling their eyes, but I don't necessarily think that we're looking for the brainiacs from college. And I don't think you necessarily need to go to college, but what we want is we want to get the athletes from college, because there's a lot of athletes that go to college that get some bullshit degree just because, the female plays softball, or she plays basketball, or the guy is into wrestling or football,
Sure.
Whatever it is. All they want to do is play sports. And I tell you what, the American Fire Service is a big sport, and it's a team event. And
it's a phenomenal team sport, man.
Absolutely. And if we could just harness that from the colleges, I don't care if they've got a degree in communication or if they decided to get a degree in kinesiology. I think education is important. I've got my education, and I know that a lot of the fire service wants to see more people that have trades backgrounds. And I see the benefit of that. And I think when you bring somebody in from the trades, while they might be challenged in some of the education side of things, because the fire service isn't the same as it was back in the 60s. And I don't mean that because of the people that are here. I mean it is what they're requiring from us.
Yes.
And the service and the customer service. And, you can't tell a customer because you're tired of them, like, you know what, we ain't coming back. It's not going to go very well for you. Right. And so the trades are good, and we need more people in the trade. So I would say that the way we got to hire is we got to get into the colleges, into the military, pick up the military people coming out of the military. We should be recruiting people that are of all ages. It seems like somebody that's in their 40s doesn't think that it's the jobs for them because they've outgrown that. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. So, that's a tough one, man.
No, it's a beautiful answer too, man. I really like the focus on the team sport aspect of college too, man, because I think that's an untapped resource for most departments that don't focus in that area. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The other thing I would love to see is there's a lot of big departments that I think that it would be great to see big city departments doing lateral hires. And not that I want to be the JV and that is a feeder team for the big urban cities, but I think the big city departments are missing out on talent if they just said, "Hey, we're going to do laterals," and they could bring in some. And there would be guys that are really talented that would love the opportunity to work in a big city.
No, absolutely. I like it. The problem is always, of course, is who's getting hired beside. You know what I'm saying? The people that are already in place. It's not coming in. It's the ones already in place.
Yeah.
That seem to be the obstacle. Okay. I don't want to miss anything here, but Kyle's got a long one, so I got a long one to throw at you. Are you ready?
All right. I'm ready.
This one's coming from Jeremy Stalker. He said, "Good evening, gentlemen. I wanted to bring up a topic of conversation if you want to discuss it. I have talked with Rob a little bit in the past about leadership posts in social media. I recently made a post to my Facebook page about, do the leadership memes actually make a difference? Everyone made their post about their thoughts, etc. Over the years, like I said, it's long. Over the years, I have become friends with or follow a lot of leadership pages. I have been noticing a lot lately that a lot of the leadership posts that I have seen lately, in my perspective, seem to be in a negative light. What I mean by this is that they post a leadership post, but it focuses on what to do when things are bad. It almost seems like involuntary conditioning. Now, there have been very positive posts out there, but some seem to focus on the negatives but provide no solutions to how to make leadership better. So my question for you is, well, here's the question. If we are going to use social media, how do we make it better?
Well, first of all, I appreciate Jeremy's long question, and Jeremy is he's an assistant chief. Literally, where I'm at right now, he's not far away from me. Okay. So I don't know why he just didn't come over and pop in and ask the question himself. But Jeremy was we'd done a large hire back in 2008, and he was one of the firefighters, and he promoted quickly up to lieutenant in our department, and then left our department to go be an assistant chief in the organization he was with before. Jeremy and I just had lunch not long ago, and we've talked all about leadership, and I do know the post that he's talking about. So, I do a lot of posting. I'll just speak for myself real quickly. I do a lot of posting of issues in leadership, and I think the perspective is that we do talk about leadership from the negative side of things more than we talk about from the positive side of things. It's easier to point those things out. And I think where Jeremy's issue is that it seems like everybody, one of the things, like I'll post a picture of something and there's a meme to it, or, sure, there's and that is just becoming the way that we're communicating our problems, or the way that we're communicating a position. And Jeremy, when we've talked about this, was like, it's got to be more than that. It's not just some meme, it's got to be deeper than that. And I absolutely agree. And I think what it does for me, one, it helps me deal with things, and it opens up dialogue. And I think when we're looking at social media, the good of social media is it opens up dialogue to a larger group, and you can get some in it. You can get a lot out of it, right? The bad of it is it opens up dialogue, and there's a lot of shit that gets thrown around in there. And so it can get caught up in all the mire, and you don't get any of the benefits out of it. But so social media, I like social media. I also hate social media at times. And, I think, the benefit of making those posts is that hopefully you have a group of people that are following you, Jeremy. I'm one of them. And that when you post something like that, it's not like, hey, I'm going to post a meme to your meme. Is that it should open up some type of dialogue and some communication. So
no, that's beautiful, man. Open up the question. And I will say this, because I try to post daily. I really try to put some new content out daily. And sometimes it's old content that's put out again. But I will say, just as a content creator, or whatever you want to call it, you notice that, holy crap, when I complain about bad leadership, I get a lot more interaction from people.
Yeah.
That resonates a lot more on social media for whatever. And so the temptation is there to grab that low hanging fruit and lose sight of your mission, and just become the complaining post. And so I would really say, just try to focus on your mission, whatever your mission may be for your social media site, meme, etc., whatever. So absolutely. Dude, I love it.
And Corley, you just posted a TikTok, which we were chatting about, I don't know, last month. I didn't know how to do that, but the one that you just posted recently, that's on your page, about opportunity and being in the right place and being prepared for the opportunity. I mean, that's a perfect leadership example of just, motivating people to recognize those things. It's not bad that, it's all about motivation.
Absolutely.
Versus, like one of the ones that I just recently posted about, about taking the loyal person and you're going to quiet them and you're going to find that they're no longer going to be loyal. Well, that's to spark some discussion and a lot of things that are going on in the fire service, and especially in my area. And some people post things and some people don't, or respond to it. And but I completely agree with you.
No, and it comes down to mission. It really does come down to mission, because some people's mission is to point out the negative. And I'm not even saying that in a bad way, but they are pointing out and highlighting it. And some people's mission is to elevate certain aspects of fellowship or team, and then some people's mission is strictly tactics. And I mean, whatever your mission is, just don't lose sight of that. No matter how many thumbs up, likes, etc. it gets, man, because that's the temptation. All right, are you ready for another long one? You're getting so many. I'm not, but yeah, here we go. Tommy Dixon. I'd like to talk about the day-to-day activities and how disciplining comes into play. For clarification, I'm just asking how you handle discipline within your department as a chief. What are things you let go versus things you feel need to be addressed? I'm asking because we currently have a chief that is seemingly punishing everyone for all kinds of little things, but not focused on the real goal of providing a top-notch service. Guys can be incompetent, but you can't question the status quo. What's your advice for overcoming that? Hey, there's no, like I said, man, they're just bringing the heat today. Like Rob Fisher's here. Throw the hard ones.
Yeah, these are all like split finger fastballs, and
yes.
And
someone throw hey Kyle, pull up a softball. Like we need a pancake.
So I guess, is this question to me as a chief officer, or if I was a company officer and I'm dealing with a chief officer that's coming down hard?
I think you're middle. I think you're not quite the top, but you're dealing with you're dealing with yours, and then you got above you that seems to be obsessed with things that, according to this guy, don't matter. So
yeah, well, I will say from my experience and is that there's a lot of times that you're going to disagree with how things are being done in the organization. And it is a very challenging thing. And I'm telling you from experience, I have bucked the system, and I have done wrong things when it comes to handling it. But if I was a company officer and my battalion chief is like really tightening the screws on things, one, make it so that it is individual. So you and the battalion chief, and communicate with the individual directly with them, and find out what the reasoning is. Get to the why of, is it a uniform issue, which some organizations are very structured with their uniforms and others are not. Is it a uniform issue, and where does it come from? Is it, we have to clean the apparatus. We have to wash the apparatus every morning at 7:00. And you're like, why am I washing it at 7:00 in the morning when we didn't even take it out the previous day? So I would say open up the dialogue with your supervisor, be it might be above battalion chief or it is your battalion chief, and have a one-on-one conversation and make sure it is just with them. Try not to be negative about it. Try not to be the one that is propelling the problem, within the company.
Adding to the cycle of,
you don't want to add to it. And you're going to have, this will get to the 10 pounds of pressure 100% of the time.
Love it.
If you come at it really hard, you're going to find that you're going to have more challenges for you. So I would say from the BC perspective, it's difficult. I think battalion chief is way more difficult than what people think it is. And I wish we were going to do the 5 old questions, because I was going to tell you my favorite position has been battalion chief.
Believe me, I don't mind. I'll run the old if I can.
But from the battalion chief perspective, I would say I'm going to give some boundaries for the crews, for the company officers, but I'm going to let the company officers run their companies the way they are. And I think it's important that they have their own cultures there, and there's going to be some hot ticket items, and there's that I cannot change as a battalion chief, and that we have to enforce them. And I'm going to say, hey, this is the reason why, and try to explain it to them the best that I can. But outside of that, I am not going to be putting some heat on them for small little shit, because I want them to have their culture within their stations, within their companies.
Love that. There's the answer. Beautiful answer. I was trying to see which one of these is I thought there was a Quint question coming, but McGee Graham said, ask mine. It's a soft toss. He said, question, as a former structural firefighter, now a wildland firefighter, is there a fool's or equivalent in regards to wildland firefighting?
Ooh, great question. I am not sure that there is, but I'll tell you right now, there could very well be. There is about the fools. You have to either be in a fire organization and volunteer or paid. It doesn't really matter. So a chapter that is a wildland or a hotshot team. If I know who this is Graham McGee, and his dad was a battalion chief in the area here, and his brother. And so, but if it's Graham, I know he's a wildland firefighter and a hotshot guy. Right. Yeah. Let's start it up, dude. Be the first one to have a
make it happen.
Make it happen, Captain.
I love it. All right. There's a roof perv in here. He said, it's William Knight. And he said, Robbie is really old. That's the question. No, ask him.
My answer is William's really ugly.
There you go. Ask him how he plans to make a healthy transition to retirement, mentally and occupationally, meaning what sort of mindset changes have to happen to walk away from the job without losing a sense of self and purpose. And I'm asking this one selfishly because I'm at 25 years. I don't know how much more I'm going at. So I'm asking it selfishly. What's your mindset towards that?
Oh, dude, I could talk for an hour on this, and I'm gonna try to distill it down. I do a hump day hangout with Dan DeGrice, who's a retired battalion chief from Chicago Fire, and it's called Straight Talk. And we've had two shows. One of them with Mike Galliano on there talking about retirement. And the reason why I did that show is because I'm getting to that age. I'm in the twilight of my career,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll tell you right now, I'm nervous to retire, and I'm not nervous to retire because I'm nervous to leave the fire service. I love it so much. It's been everything that I've done since I'm 18 years of age.
Absolutely.
And uh, I just, I don't know. And so my mindset is I'm struggling with it. What's kind of helping is my career is kind of going in a path that I'm just not having as much fun as I used to have. And struggling in some issues at work personally. And so retirement is sounding better and better. And you know what helped is building a house in Vegas, and my granddaughters and kids in Vegas. My wife's living in Vegas now.
Oh, those
And every
priorities.
time I'm
Baby.
in Vegas, every time I'm in Vegas, I'm like, do I really need to go back home?
Right. Right.
But yeah, there's a struggle just for everybody in the American Fire Service of leaving the fire service. There is actually a fairly high incident rate or a suicide incident rate of retirees
Right.
because they lose purpose. And so what I would do is I'd love to retire here. And if anybody from the Vegas area is listening, I'd love to be a PIO for any of the departments in Vegas and just go to fires and report to the media and do news releases and help get information out. But I'm still going to be in the Fools. I'm still going to be teaching to some degree and still be affiliated. So I think my purpose will be there. I just know physically I can't do the job as long. And yeah, so I'm planning on it. And it's coming sooner than I had originally had planned. So.
Right on. Right on. Do you think, and this is me asking, do you think the position change affected that? The company officer to battalion chief? I don't know how long you've been doing the battalion chief, so.
I've been a battalion chief for 5 years
Okay.
now. No, it wasn't the position change, and I love being a battalion chief.
Okay.
It's just the organization's changing, the region's changing, leadership changes, society changes. But the thing that where I'm at right now is I love helping people. I love being at work when I'm at work. But I just don't love doing my job all the time. So it's a challenge that that we're all facing. And I've talked to, in fact, I ran into Mike Galliano. He was in Vegas this last week doing a benefit gig for a Clark County firefighter that had cancer. And if you haven't had Clark Lamping on your show, you might want to reach out to him. He's a great guy. Clark Lamping, just like camping, but with an L.
Okay.
And Clark put together, he's with the Terry Farrell Fund. He put together this thing. So I went and saw Mike, and we were chatting about some troubles, some struggles I'm having. And he put it just as Mike Galliano does. And he goes, you'll know it's time to retire. You just one day you're just going to wake up and go, yep, it's time to go. So,
wow. Okay. There you go. Kevin McCart.
all right, good buddy.
We haven't even I've asked one of the questions that we sent on the topics discussed so far, just so you know where we're at. Kevin McCart said, and I haven't even got to, like, Galliano sang your praises earlier. I'm going to read some. I'm going to scroll through here. I'm trying to see. Thank you so much for your perspective. That came from Tommy Dixon answering the question. Yes, sir, that is me. Thank you, Chief. That came from McGee Graham. Dude, a lot of dude. I can't even catch up. Kevin McCart wants to know, explain some of the differences and advantages and disadvantages to the Quint concept versus TDAs and how your organization handled this.
This is so.
Is it deep?
This is deep. This is deep. Yeah. So we haven't really talked yet about one of the things that I had taught for many years, or had written articles and had lectured at FDIC, and I will say lightly, I had consulted and helped other departments, and is on quints. And when I first came into this whole quint thing back in the day, is I didn't like the idea of a quint, but I do see definitely the benefits. The quint is basically the suburban ladder company is what it is. And
That's a really beautiful definition.
yeah, and when you look at in all my research, probably it's anywhere between 75, 80% of all the ladder trucks that are being manufactured these days are quints. And so, which kind of when you look at it, is it's the majority of the suburban fire service, and the urban, more traditional fire departments, your FDNYs and so on and so forth. They are in the true truck, and you just don't see the true truck so much anymore. So the total quint concept was made popular by St. Louis back in the 80s. And ironically, St. Louis has stepped away from the total quint concept, and they have quints still. They just don't have all quints. That's expensive, having and especially a department the size of St. Louis,
Right.
and the amount of work that those guys see, to have all quints. I mean, you're going to spend more money. It's more stuff to break. The problem with the Quint is it's not a good truck. It's not a good engine. And in my class, up here in Washington, we have these things called houseboats. And a houseboat is a house that is floating on the water. It's beautiful. It's not a boat. It looks like a house just floating on the water. Well, it's not a good house and it's not a good boat.
Right.
So basically Quints are houseboats. So to have a truck of that size and weight, and you lose compartmentation, you lose ground ladder storage, and so on and so forth. The total quint concept, and it's just expensive to keep those rigs on the road. It's not surprising to see that they're slowly starting to disappear. I think Richmond, Virginia had a total quint concept period, and they've gone away from it. Fort Worth, Texas, I believe they were doing it. I could be wrong. But you have a hard time finding departments that are in that. So,
right.
The TDA. So what we did was we had a quint. It was a rear mounted quint, overweight, of course. And, we did the best that we could to, create compartmentation and carrying of ground ladders. And we made the transition to a TDA, back in 2016. And, the department at that time, we were a different department than we are today, and our staffing, or I should say, our station configurations were different, and so we got some changes that are going to be occurring this next year that are going to have an impact on our TDA that we have at 72s, where I worked for many years. But what we did is we ended up going away from the Quint, and with the TDA, we ended up getting a stored calf system, and we actually got it from our brothers in Winter Park in Florida.
Okay. And
the concept worked really well. Basically, it's just, imagine a huge fire extinguisher, the stored calf system. So it's just this tank of water with a little bit of foam, and you use compressed air, and it could handle a car fire, it could handle a room fire, those types of things. So what we did is when we put the truck into service, we didn't allow for interior operations with a hand line with that. So we didn't want our crews to go inside with a compressed air foam line.
Okay.
They took care of, rubbish fires and car fires. They could do a transitional attack or an exterior attack in a bedroom window if they wanted to, but generally speaking, they were a true truck. So, but yeah, that might all be changing here in the future for the department. So I don't know where we're going to end up going.
Right on. And
I will say this.
Okay.
I will real quickly. I will say if I was going to do a quint, I would do it as a TDA, because you can have good weight distribution on the apparatus. And you can still carry a good complement of ground ladders. I think our TDA carries 254 feet of ground ladders. I've heard other TDAs carrying, over 300 feet of ground ladders.
Wow.
And if you put the tank and the pump on the tractor, then it doesn't have any impact on your compartmentation and your ground ladders, and you can still meet the NFPA of 300 gallons and a good pump on it. So
nice. And I had a lot of people say that they've learned more about quints taking your class than they knew from writing the quint. So it's a great thing to. And like you said, man, it's the truck of suburbia.
I believe it is.
At least for my career, and we'll see where it goes in the next 10 to 15. Jeffrey Bryant Jr. got a question for you. Man, they got a ton of questions coming at you. We're just cycling through. With formal mentorship, is it best to do peer-to-peer or superior to peer?
Oh, peer-to-peer, I would say. The superior to peer, there could be benefits there. And I'm assuming he's talking about like from chief officer down to a company officer. There is definitely something to be learned there. But I think when we're doing peer to peer, you're probably more open to banter back and forth, discourse, conversation than you would if I was a company officer and a battalion chief is telling me, mentoring to me, and I disagree with something they say. Then your relationship, as in a professional relationship, comes into play.
Right.
But I will say that if it's not at work and if it's, you're reaching out to somebody on the outside, then I think they give you great perspective. So a lot of my mentors that I have, Mo Davis, Clyde Gordon, Kurt Isaacson, Mike Galliano. I mean, they're at all levels, all around me. Yes. Scott Thompson. And so that works out. But I think if it's in the organization, the superior down to the subordinate it is a form of mentoring, but it's just not the same type of mentoring that I would be looking for.
Right on. And also, man, the mentee really does get to pick their mentor. Like you can try and make it happen top down, but unless they pick it, it's not the same.
Yeah, mentoring is mentee focused. And I think Mike was talking that he doesn't like using the word mentee. I think he uses the word learner, right, when we've talked before, but it is mentee focused. And in 2010 or 11, I did a program at our department away from work. We made it so that it wasn't work. It wasn't work related, and it wasn't supported by the union or anything. So we wanted to do this off so that we had all control over it. And the idea was we took a lot of motivated firefighter, a handful of motivated firefighters, and we created a mentoring program. And we actually did a presentation at at FRI one year, okay, on, our findings of it. But the one thing that we found is that when you try to develop the relationship that way, it's very challenging. So it is mentoring is mentee focused.
Right.
And that you should be, all of us. I mean, if there's anything I tell you about mentoring, is we all that are in the American Fire Service or in any of the fire service, we should be seeking those that are at all levels, all around us, that we can gain perspective and gain experience from, because we're not going to get a lot of experience from the line, in regards to fighting fire. And there's a lot of problems that we're dealing with, challenges in diversity and dealing with all that stuff, that we can gain more perspective from people that are outside of our organizations. So
very nice. Very nice. All right. Next one. Michael Dozier is asking, so you got a scenario coming at you here. The scenario is this: you're the CO, you have some time in that position. So you're the CO, you are receiving a new member to your crew that was a problem in his last assignment. How much of a fresh start does he get? Also, how do you handle your current crew and their response to receiving a perceived problem as a new crew member?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. That's a great question. Yes, they get a clean slate. They have to get a clean slate, because imagine starting it off and if I was being 100% honest, I'm like, I already know a lot about you. I've already, shown my cards, and they now think that they don't have an opportunity here.
Right.
I think everybody deserves, 2-3 chances, sometimes more, because I wouldn't. It all depends on the reason why they are considered the problem child from this other assignment. But yeah, I'm going to give them a clean slate, and I'm going to have a conversation with my crew, because the first question they're going to ask is, why the hell is he or she coming here?
Right.
And oftentimes good company officers, one of the bad things about being a good motivated company officer is you're going to take the challenges.
Oh yeah.
And that is what leadership is about, is about, yeah, it's about helping people find their way and getting the most out of these individuals. And, could this shithead be a shithead? Absolutely. And if you are the company officer that is the motivated one and is and very talented and have years in service, this could be the last stop for this individual. And, so yeah, I'm going to give them a clean slate. I'm going to be very clear of the expectations. I'm not going to change anything in the company to fit the individual. They're going to have to fit into the they're going to have to fit into our culture and into the company. and I'm going to have a conversation with the crew, because I got to have the crew on my side. I can't be battling the crew and then fighting with this individual that needs help.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. And there you go, man. I'm trying to catch up. Yeah. All right. Here we go. Michael Dozier, closing that one out. Make sure I don't close that. Rob. This is from Don Huffman. He said, your organization recently underwent a few mergers, 2 of which with departments with strong cultures. How did you guys effectively blend those without losing the heart and history of those smaller groups? What is the culture like now?
Well, thanks, Don. Again, Don is working in the city that's in our county, and he could have come over and asked the question himself, but I appreciate it.
I really like the fact he asked it publicly so that everybody benefits.
Yeah. I've known Don for quite some time. So yeah, we've merged. The original department I was with, Snohomish County Fire District 7, had a very strong culture. I would say I'm not like boasting or anything, but I think we were a very good department for our size and the amount of call volume we had. We were very training focused, so we had a really good culture. We had good medics, so the EMS culture wasn't terrible. Fire culture was great.
Nice.
We merged with a smaller department to our east, and they had a strong culture as well. And unfortunately, I think for them, and if I was being 100% honest, and I know the guys that I've had this conversation with that were from that organization, it was more like a hostile takeover.
Okay.
We basically came in, and this was the culture that they were going to adopt, and it was going to be our way, our culture. And the bad with that is there was a lot of things that they were doing really well that we just had to push aside and just move on. And I get the reason why. You got to try. What we want to do is we want to try to take the best of both and bring them together. So that merger did pretty well. I think there was questions over why we were doing certain things, but generally speaking, the culture was blending very well. And then this recent merger that we did, another strong cultured department, their leadership came over this time. And so the change of leadership is really, it's going to be the change of the adoption of a new culture. And so we've had a little bit of change of the culture. It's been a blend. There is still, we tried to get away from the Legacy 7, the Legacy Monroe, but generally speaking, it's been a blend of cultures. But I'll tell you right now, it is hard. And for those that have been around for a long time, it is really challenging, because it's harder to change to something that you've been doing a certain way for 20 plus years. And then this is the new culture. It really is difficult. And the new guys that are coming in new guys and gals are not going to know any different, right? This is their new department. And what we have to try to do, and I'm challenged with this myself, if I'm being 100% honest, is trying not to be negative and trying not to say, in the old days and those types of things, and trying to support the position that we're in. And it's freaking difficult. And so, I don't really have, where Don's coming from and where he's at now. He's seen a definite change from his old organization in his new organization. And his new organization, there's a possibility, because we're all in the same county, there's a possibility that that is a department that's been around for a long time. Like I said, they are an urban city department, been around since if I remember correctly, 1889.
Oh, wow.
And they have a very strong culture. And now all of these smaller organizations that have been around them and that have grown literally in the last 20 to 25 years to larger departments, it's going to be a blend of new and old and traditional and the new wave. And that is going to be a very big challenge. So
without a doubt, man.
Hopefully I answered your question, Don. And give me a call and let's grab coffee or beer and let's talk serious.
Get the skinny. Absolutely. Okay, now I want to get to it, because we've literally done one of the we've touched on a lot, don't get me wrong, of that you sent, because we already talked about quints, which was later. But 10 pounds of pressure, man, I use this so many times. I got a picture that goes up of you, and I'm like, here's the man. If you want to make change in your organization, here's the man who gave you the formula. So talk to me about 10 pounds of pressure 100% of the time.
Yeah, this is, I don't own this. And so I want to get that out first. And every time that this has come up, I always tell people, I first heard this from a guy by the name of Andy Spire. And Andy was working in the neighboring department. He was a New York City fireman that, came west. God, Andy worked everywhere. Those in my county that know Andy Spire, know him well. He is a pit bull. He is tenacious, little Jewish guy. Yeah. And he would just attack things with this just incredible, but he would say, Rob, what you got to do is just 10 pounds of pressure 100% of the time. Because if you do it any other way, if you do 100 pounds of pressure 10% of the time, it's like punching somebody in the face, and you ain't going to get anything if you punch him in the face. And I learned it from him first, and I had tried to apply it throughout my career. And I get a lot of credit for it, but it's not me. It's actually Andy that is the first person I heard it from. But when you look at it, it really does make a lot of sense. And when we talk about dealing with problems, or we talk is like, you don't want to overpower somebody into a position. That's like taking a wild animal and backing them into a corner.
Right.
They're going to have to attack, and now you're not going to get anything done. But if what you're saying and what you believe and what you're trying to present, whatever it is, and you back it up with facts, and you take the time to explain, this is that 10 pounds of pressure, and it takes time. Change takes time. So I'm going to give you a real quick story. I'm going to try to make it quick.
Go ahead. There's no time frame.
Yeah. I didn't want to go as long as Mike Galliano. I just like, oh man, I'm hoping we can do this in an hour and a half.
All right. We'll see.
So for a long time, with this whole Quint idea, I thought that the best thing for our new ladder truck in the future would be a TDA Quint. And again, for everything I said earlier about distribution of weight, being able to carry ground ladders and so on and so forth. And I was teaching a class in California, and I had the opportunity to jump up into the tillerman's cab and drive a tiller truck without any experience and without any training. And they said, "Oh, it's a piece of cake." And the guy that jumped on with me, the tillerman, he was hanging on the side of the rig. His name, and I'm not shitting you, it was Jesus. And Jesus said, you got to turn it the opposite way when we go into the corner. Yeah, I got it, man. I'd never done it before. And long story short, as we were going into this U-turn, I cranked too far, and we hit a tree, and we caused a lot of damage.
Oh.
And I felt terrible. And so now here I come back to my department, and I crashed somebody else's TDA. And I'm going to say 10 pounds of pressure 100% of the time. I had an uphill battle to try to present the information, the facts, the reasons why. And just because I crashed a truck, well, if anything, that's a bad example of a program of, who do you let into the tiller cab and why, and all those things. And so, yeah, we got a TDA, even though I had crashed somebody else's. So 10 pounds of pressure 100% of the time.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. All right. Pulling up the notes here. So many things to talk about, man. The slow house rules. What you got?
Well, the reason why I put that on there is that when I look at everybody that I'm affiliated with, and this will tie back to Brothers in Battle. The last time we were all on the road chatting, and Cody, I think we were in Bryant's neighborhood. I think we were in Chicago area in Aurora, Illinois, and we were driving, and Cody basically got tired of us. We were just, we were playing down our department, or playing down, how big of an organization, what impact we have. And right. Cody said, I am really tired of you guys doing it, almost like a big Papa Bear. And he goes, you guys are some of the greatest firemen in the American Fire Service, and it doesn't matter where you come from. So I'm trying to change that, and I come in, I try not to play down I work for a medium-sized department that doesn't see a lot of fire. I try to stay away from that, steer away from it. And the more I started to just kind of play inventory on who who I'm affiliated with and who I teach with, I'm amazed the number of small department guys and gals that I teach with. They're exceptional firefighters, exceptional. And I mean, we'll use Brian Olson. Brian Olson, some people think that he fell off the face of the earth. Incredible. I mean, an awesome fireman and great instructor, great person. Well, he's just stepped away from instructing because he's got two young kids that he wants to be a part of their lives as they're growing up, and he doesn't want to miss any of that time, and nobody can fault him for that.
100%, man.
And yeah, absolutely. So when I think of like Brian Olson, he works in a Eagle Fire in Idaho is, I don't know, a 3-station department. Neighboring departments are small and they've got talented people. There's other people that work in Eagle, Steven Tyler and a bunch of these guys. So there's all of this talent that is in the suburban fire department or even smaller. So to me is I've got a handful of friends that work for big cities and that I teach with. And I've thought, man, if I was a LA City firefighter, would I still be doing what I'm doing? And I think that I would be today, but I know very few LA City firemen that teach like we do, that are out teaching all the time. I know, New York City guys and such, but when you look at it and you look at the size of some of these departments, New York, Chicago, Metro Dade, LA City, Houston, it's a very small group of individuals from these enormous departments that are out sharing what they have a lot of experience to share with. But when you're looking at the American Fire Service, I think that the majority of them are, and maybe it's a reflection of, being 80%, 85, maybe 90% of the American Fire Service is suburban,
Mm-hmm.
but the amount of small department instructors that are out there they're change makers in this organization. I'll use you as an example. I don't know the size of your organization, but I know it's not huge.
No, it's 4 stations, 60,000 population, 25
Perfect.
square miles. Yeah, I'm suburbia.
Perfect. You are a huge change maker in the American Fire Service.
My guess might be, but thank you.
No, but what you're doing and everything that you're doing, I mean, it's like this is by an individual that works in a small department. And it's just like trying to draw out the best of the American Fire Service. And that is awesome. And it's not just you. I mean, there's a number of them. Look at Kurt Isaacson, where he works. And he works in a department that's super busy too. But, he's 2 battalions covering like 600 square miles. So it's all of this talent that's out there. And I just want to say, I'm proud to be a suburban firefighter. I wanted to be an urban firefighter my entire life. When I grew up in Seattle, I was going to be a Seattle firefighter. And parts of me wish that I had the opportunity to give that a shot. But I think this could be it that you're faith-based or not, but it was God's plan, or things happen for a reason. And I think I'm where I'm at doing the things that I'm doing for a reason. And I'm damn proud of it. So,
and you should be, man. And a huge impact. Beautiful. Love it. There we got Slow House Rules. You talked about suburban versus urban mentors. Suburban versus urban mentors. Do you want to touch on it? Because it's kind of a segue right there.
Yeah. I guess when I'm looking at, mentors, it seems like a lot of the suburban mentors are more available than the big city ones, and I don't know what that is. And I wish that I could, this is the part that I wish that I was an LA City battalion chief, because I would be all over this shit. I would love to just be able to share as much as I possibly can. I hope that I'm a humble person, that I'm viewed as a humble person, and that no matter where I'm going, where I'm teaching, who I'm with, volunteer, explore, post, I don't care. Anybody that's willing to listen to me, that I'm sharing information. But it's just really odd that majority of my mentors are in suburban. Well, I'm like probably 95% of them are suburban officers and firefighters and all over the place. Mike Dugan is one of my mentors, and he comes from a big department. And I got guys like Mike Galliano is also a
Right.
mentor, and he
Absolutely.
comes from a big department, or a bigger department. It's not the FDNY, but it's a big department in our region. So,
Absolutely.
um, yeah, I mean, that's really it. I was just trying to tie together the fact that when you're looking for mentors, I want to keep them somewhat connected to what the life that I'm in.
The life you live.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and so like me comparing my life to Mike Dugan is really difficult, and maybe we'll talk about it later, but I do believe there's sometimes you just got to stay in your lane. And I've never been an OVM, and I will never be an OVM in the way that FDNY uses it. So
Right.
I have really no experience in it. I could gain some experience from Dugan on that, but really, because I'm not going to be doing that. I mean, I don't necessarily need that experience. I can get other things from Dugan. So, but yeah, that was it. I was just
Beautiful.
wanting to tie those two together.
No, no, absolutely, man. It's beautiful. All right. Pulling it up. We got
My buddy just texted me and says that he was pretty happy that you're drinking Modelo's there. So good.
If anybody knows how to make Modelo sponsor the scrap, let me know. Crank out another one here. There we go. All right. West Coast roof operations. I wanted to get to it.
Oh man, I thought we were going to put that at the end so that those that are tired of listening to me, the controversial topic was going to be at the way end.
Anytime you say controversy, I mean, again, it goes back to our social media thing.
Yeah, I know this is putting a big smile on Knight's face, but one of the organizations I belong to, or group that I belong to, is called the Roof Pervs.
Right on.
And I didn't start it. A couple other guys started it, but basically it's a group of us. We started sharing photos, construction photos, and that kind of led to this creating of this group of individuals. And most of us work on ladder trucks, but anyways, so it created the organization. We've been challenged, I will say, in our beliefs, and I look at it as that, again, if we go back to staying in your lane, is the controversy of roof operations. You just I mean, we could do it right now. Just post something about roof operations, and it's like chumming for fish.
Oh yeah,
they'll be all over it, right?
It's a frenzy.
It is a frenzy, yeah. And the issue is, and hopefully this is where social media really does struggle, but hopefully that we mature as we starting to blend in and starting to get used to social media, is that there's times that you have the experience to post on things, and there's times that you don't have the experience to post on things. And I'm not saying I know everything about vertical ventilation from the West Coast perspective, but I have studied it a lot, and I've done 20 plus years of training on it and worked it. But when we blend West Coast and East Coast approaches to things, it's not just like, you can't just start off at roof operations and just say, okay, do you do them or you not do them? There's so much that goes into it. It's the experience of the organization, the training, the types of people, the resource loads, and then the types of buildings. That then blends us, or I should say that then breaks us off into the argument over, well, we should not be on truss roofs and we should not be on modern construction because they're built to kill firefighters. And I think that's furthest from the point. And I will tell you, in all honesty, I am more comfortable on an engineered roof, what some people call lightweight. I'm more comfortable on an engineered roof than I am working on something that would be like an FDNY that's a 150-year-old building with conventional construction. And yes, I understand that conventional construction can burn for long periods of time, but I also know that because the lightweight or the engineered constructed building, it's gonna start falling apart or dilapidating quicker. I know where my line in the sand is, and I can judge it easier. I have to give up more space, but it's the environment that you're used to being in. So I will just say, some of the tirades that I've had on social media and trying to share this with others is that when we look at the American Fire Service, and there is probably no department that is on roofs and cuts roof as much as LAFD. The LAFD probably cuts a roof every single day, I would bet. And when I did a Sunday, it was called the Sunday Sermon for a Fools chapter in Texas. Lone Star Fools.
Nice.
I did the Sunday sermon on roof operations, and one of the things that I got into is because the question always comes up. Not everybody in the American Fire Service does roof operations,
Right.
so the fatalities, the injuries as a result of roof operations, maybe that has an impact on it. And so what I did is, do your research, get all your numbers together. What I did is I started to dig at, well, what departments actually do regular roof operations. And when you start looking at those departments and you start adding up their call volume, and I looked at the 2020 Firehouse call volumes, this is anecdotal because it's not true, real good data, it's dirty data basically.
Sure.
But when you're looking at like 1/3 to almost half the amount of fires fought in America or in organizations doing roof operations, then I'm having a hard time believing that the other part of the American Fire Service that doesn't do them, that they don't have any impact on it. And like, when was the last time an LAFD firefighter was killed doing roof operations? You can go back to 2017 when I think it's, if I remember his name correctly, last name was Wong. He fell from an aerial device and was killed. But that wasn't roof operations. And I love Bill Carey and all of his posts, and I've been on a lot of his posts, but this came out like in August of this last year. Somebody posted that we've gone 10 years without a vertical ventilation or a firefighter having a line of duty death as a result of walking a roof to do any type of roof operations. 10 years. And we get so caught up on, we have individuals that will post when we show vertical ventilation on a lightweight or an engineered roof, like, that's killing firefighters every year. And I'm like, bullshit, show me the data. And even Bill Carey, in some of the posts that I've done, and he's jumped on, he's like, excuse me, I'm not seeing it in the data. We actually kill more firefighters, it seems like, off the scene, so away from the fireground scene, than we do on the fireground scene. And what we've seen in the last few years is more firefighters die with a hose in their hand,
right,
than doing vertical ventilation. So do firefighters get injured doing vertical ventilation? Absolutely. But then again, our job is dangerous. And if you the way that we deal with risk is we deal with risk through training and having good training. And this kind of goes back to staying in your lane. If you don't have the training in this, then why not try to gain perspective rather than be the one that comes out and just starts saying that you shouldn't be doing that. I mean, I get it. I mean, like, FDNY doesn't do vertical ventilation on residential single family dwellings.
Right.
They don't see any need for it. That's all right. That's okay. But then I don't think that they should be the ones that are trying to be the experts in how we should be doing things. And I will say, a number of us that from the roof pervs, we had the opportunity at FDIC one year to sit down with Danny Sheridan, battalion chief, in a busy battalion chief from the FDNY, and he was really wanting to understand a little bit more of this. And it was a great conversation we had with Danny. And he just says we work in different environments. We work in different departments, and that's okay. So that's kind of my beef about West Coast roof operations, but it's very successful, and it's not for everybody. It's not for everything, but if you are going to do it, you want to make sure that you have the right training for it. And I would say that every commercial building, no matter what the fire is, unless you already know that the roof is collapsed, I'm going to put a company on the roof, even if it's venting through some portion of the roof. I want perspective, because you can tell the integrity of the building by knowing what the integrity of the roof is. And when you're sitting in your command post or you're out in front of the building as a BC, you and I are out there, the best vantage point that we know what the extent of fire is and how bad it is in the building is from those that are on the roof.
Yes.
And they're going to give you a good perspective. So when we look at like Blue Card and the roof report, I love it. I think it's awesome. It's one of the best things that we get.
Awesome, man. There you go. You straight into it. I want to ask you about young officers on fire. I want to get to that before I don't want to dive off too deep into building construction, because I want to hit the social media and young officers on fire, where that came from and how it's doing.
Yeah, it's doing great. I appreciate.
And I want to say this is I follow it and I love it. I did not even know it was you. That's how much the humility plays into it. Does that make sense? Like, it's just about,
yeah, it does.
It's just about the thing
I try to,
and not about the name. So
Well, I'm trying to hide behind other aliases so that
Right.
I, prevents me from getting in trouble for speaking my mind. So, yeah. So how this all went down, like I said, I back in 2010 and 11, we did a mentoring thing. I've been enthralled in like followership and leadership and mentoring and all these things. And so I've spent a lot of my time in my profession, and then my master's degree that I'm working on is in organizational leadership and basically in mentoring and those types of things. So I'm really interested in all this stuff.
Absolutely.
In 2018, I had known this individual. His name's Ryan Selleck, and he is a captain in the Tri-Cities, which is in Eastern Washington, in Washington here. And he and I had were lecturing at FireX Talk in 2018, which is basically like a TED Talk but for fire.
Right on.
If you haven't checked those out, you can type in FireX Talk, and they're all over YouTube. So we had been friends on social media and shared stuff, and we met in person in 2018 at a FireX Talk when we were doing it. And that led to us communicating more. Well, Ryan was the one that actually put together Young Officers on Fire. And then, it intrigued me. And so I joined the group, and I was intrigued in what was going on. And I'm not trying to boast anyway, but Ryan's like, hey, dude, you joining is really going to help the page because
Right.
people are going to follow. I said, no, I don't know about that, but I do want to be a part of this and be a part of the conversation that's going on. So that led to building the page up. There inside the page, there's actually a closed group of our mentoring group. And so there's about, I think there's 30 or 40 of us in the mentoring group. There's some principal officers, myself, a buddy of mine that's a battalion chief up in Alaska. Ryan is a principal officer as a captain. Another buddy that is a deputy chief in an urban department. And we basically use it as a mentoring group. We just had a meeting last week, and Scott Thompson came on and
Nice.
presented to our group on his document, the formal mentoring in the fire service.
Yes.
And yeah, so it's doing well. We have a conference in the Tri-Cities in Eastern Washington in May that is becoming really successful. We've got Frank Viscusa coming out to talk, to do Step Up and Lead, good buddy, and just probably one of the best when it comes to talking about leadership in the American Fire Service. Ray McCormick, if you know that guy, he's coming to be a line boss. So he's going to talk about leadership as a line boss. And then myself and my buddy Rex Strickland, who came from Fairfax and is here in Washington State. And so we're going to talk about basically truck perspective, basically, everything outside of the engine work. So you don't have to have an aerial device, but just what are we going to do when we don't have a hose line?
Right.
And then we're closing everything out with Aaron Fields talking about functional awareness, or it's not a functional awareness, it's functional operations or something. So he's going to talk about how to basically teach and
his big brain stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So that conference is coming off in May. So yeah, things are great. And I love being a part of the organization.
It's awesome, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's been great.
So I always like to ask every guest, book or books that you think firefighters should be reading.
Well, there's a ton of books.
Absolutely.
So I broke it. I'm breaking this down into categories. And so first one, I think that one of the things that we struggle with in the American Fire Service, and this goes back to the controversy of roof operations, is an understanding of building construction.
Right on.
We battle over the type of construction or roof construction
terminology. Absolutely.
Terminology. I mean, here's a good example. And I probably should have said this when we were talking about roof operations. The term bowstring.
Yes.
So, I mean, it originally came from the idea of what now is being called a tied arch, but right. A bowstring was exactly what it says. It was a bowstring. So there's a difference between a tied arch and a rib arch or an arch construction. But everybody uses the term bowstring. I was like, well, terms mean things. And this goes to what Aaron Fields talks about with jargon.
Oh, yeah.
Is that we really do need to narrow that down. And so building construction is where we have arguments, it seems like, a lot. And So I had researched arched roofs through the patent office, and you can see right in about the 1920s or I should say the 1930s, when basically the arches, and I'm talking about an actual arch that was a wood web, wood truss, when they started calling it a bowstring and calling everything bowstrings. It just was the change of the terminology, and the fire service carried it. So the two books that I would say, I really do like the Art of Reading Buildings by Mittendorf and Dodson. It's not a perfect book, but it's a great book. Brannigan's book is great, and it is basically considered the Bible of the American Fire Service. But we're still learning a lot about, as construction is changing and we're in more modern construction. I don't think the books that are currently in the American Fire Service are really addressing the true danger, I wouldn't say the true danger, the true construction features of engineered construction.
Right on.
And one of our roof pervs, James Johnson, who's from Canada.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Dude, I love it.
He's a master builder in Canada, and he sits on the panels. And so there's a lot of misinformation that the American Fire Service is pushing out about engineered construction that, we really do need more of that information in the textbooks that are out there. But the other textbooks I would say for building construction that has just been phenomenal. Firefighters don't like to read a lot, and they like pictures. And so it's Building Construction Illustrated by Francis Ching. And it's like a $30 or $40 book on Amazon. And they're basically architectural drawings of the different types of construction. Yes. And they explain it. So it makes it
make so much sense, because it shows everything and why it works. It's beautiful, man. These little
exactly. And when you're like panelized roof and you're trying to explain to somebody, well, that you have a beam and you have a purlin and you've got, like, no, let me just show you a drawing of it. And it
was James Johnson that turned me onto it. I had no idea of this book before James Johnson, and he turned me onto it, ordered it, and I have it. Yes, but yeah, get it.
Yeah, I would say every firefighter should have that book, because it helps them understand the components of building construction, and they should be good students of building construction. The next two books I would say is tactics, and so of course John Norman's book, Fire Officer Handbook, is probably one of the best ones out there, and he does a really good job from the perspective of an urban firefighter or urban fire officer. He does a really good job of kind of trying to speak to everything, and suburban firefighters have to draw from the experience of the urban fire department. And I think Norman does a great job at doing that.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's a great tactics book. There's a lot of people out there that want to write books on tactics, but the problem is that a lot of tactics are local, and we'll go just back to the West Coast versus East Coast when it comes to roof operations.
Good example.
And so it makes it really difficult to figure out an actual textbook that can kind of cover all of those things. So the other book, and I don't have all my books here, but hopefully the other book I think every firefighter should have, and hopefully it comes into focus.
To me, you just reached into a roof and pulled that out. So you don't.
Here, I'm gonna get rid of my background. So I'm in my bedroom.
It's fair.
And oops, wrong one. So I don't really have a really cool background like Mike Galliano does.
He's got some rocking guitars, dude. I'm not gonna lie.
So this right here,
beautiful.
America Burning. This is a book. This was one of the original books. But here's my problem with the American Fire Service is that we're talking about search, and we're talking about them. We're talking about trying to reduce the number down to 2,000, victims or 2,000 fatalities a year. And the majority of the firefighters in the American Fire Service have no idea what America Burning is, and it's the foundational piece that builds off everything. So when you're on Firefighter Rescue Survey and you're reading Brush's stuff, phenomenal chief officer that's writing good stuff, you should get an idea where it all started. And so the nice thing about America Burning is you don't have to buy the book. You can buy it, but you can download it for free. Just do a Google search for America Burning, and there's a PDF for it. So download it and read it. So The other one is some leadership books. Step Up and Lead by Viscuso is just, it's a great book. It's a good foundational book for all company officers. Call Sign Chaos by James Mattis. What's great about that book is it comes from somebody that was in the military. I think military books are great. I mean, others have talked about The Mission, The Men and Me,
right?
By Blabber, which is another great book. But James Mattis's book, Call Sign Chaos, is awesome. And then the last one for leadership that I'm currently in is General McChrystal's book, Risk. And what I've done now is I used to just try to read the books. I was never a really good reader, and I blended in audiobooks. And now what I'm doing is I do audio and reading, and I will listen to the audiobook, and then I will read up to the point that I've listened to the audiobook.
I like it.
Yeah. It really helps me with retention and understanding. And this is the second time through that I'm reading McChrystal's book, Risk, and it's been great. The last book that, Culture is the next one.
I just posted this one today, dude. Great.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
So I was in The Culture Code by Daniel Coyle. I was in Leadership Under Fire classes, and so it became a recommendation for culture. And basically, it just describes what cultures are, how to build them, how to build high performance team and cultures. And so it was a great book, and I just got done reading it not too long ago, trying to add it into my list of books.
Beautiful.
Tribe by Sebastian Junger is a great book on, how to belong and the importance of belonging, and how we can help get through very difficult times together, and the importance of it. The Functional Fire Company by Scott Thompson. I mean, it's probably, I've read it once. I got to read it again, but it's going to probably be one of my favorites for moving forward with, especially with culture stuff. Mm-hmm. It is just I
think it's chapter 2 that's on culture. I'm pretty sure. Forgive me if I get the chapter wrong, but chapter 2, I think every firefighter should have to read it just to be in the fire service.
It's early on in the book that he talks about culture, and he basically just says that everything is based around culture. Yes. And so if you can understand the culture, and you can gain some control of the culture in a positive way, then you're gonna resolve a lot of your issues and be able to steer the organization in the right direction. And then the last one that I'm doing right now, I'm doing an audio book, but I haven't got the actual book so I can catch up to it, is You Win in the Locker Room First by Mike Smith and John Gordon. And basically it's about Mike Smith was he was the head football coach for the Falcons and turned around the Falcons organization. So I think that there's a lot of parallels with the American Fire Service in sports. We talked about it earlier.
Absolutely.
And so when we look at like how the sports, how you deal with egos, and how you deal with different types of people and diversity within the American Fire Service, they're doing it all right now in the professional sports. And some of the best leaders sit in organizations that, run football teams and basketball teams and baseball teams and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of lessons to be. So those are my books.
Dude, beautiful, beautiful list of books, man. And not a single one I would disagree with. And some of the ones I want to pick up. My little brother, when I say my little brother, we have 15 years between us. I was number 2. He was number 6 in the family. But he's on the job. And so every day he goes to not every day, but about once a month he goes to Half Price Books, and he looks around, and he always looks at the firefighter section, which is like 8 books long. So every time he goes there, he can see that there's nothing new, no big deal, and he moves on. And literally this year, like 3 or 4 days ago, he went to Half Price Books, and he got a copy of 20,000 Alarms for $4.99.
Get out!
No, I'm not even. This is not even a joke. I actually texted like Romagus and Kurt and said, check it out. My little brother just picked up like 20,000 Alarms for $5 at Half Price Books. So when you're in those bookstores, man, check and look around. Someone really mislabeled something.
Probably a lot of the listeners don't even, I mean, they might know the book, but they don't know the value of that book. That book's probably $500-$600.
Yes.
It is not a cheap book. I just got, I got one book coming, but I just got, an old copy of Glitter and Ash by Dennis Smith. and I've got Ghetto Firefighter coming.
Dude, that's
And
awesome.
so yeah, I've got
So if
some
you
old
love
books
it, I just
somewhere.
love that story because he literally, I was actually teaching a class and my phone rang. It was my brother. I was like, hey, I'll call you. I sent back, please text me. And he called me again and he never does that. So I actually stepped out of the class to call him back. He's like, I was like, hey, is everything okay? Is dad okay? Mom okay? All that stuff, you know? He's like, no, I just want to tell you about a find I've had. And I was like, okay, well, I'll call you later. And so anyway, that was how big it was. But anyway, sorry. Completely minor
right.
story. All right. I love that. Next 5 questions for firefighters. We tried to get you here for the first 5 questions, but you were building a house and moving to Vegas and being busy. So you get the
I want to.
next.
I know I get the next one, but I want to address one of the questions.
Go ahead.
From
I want to
the
hear it.
from the old.
I want to hear it before I kick it off.
Okay, so I just want to say that when we're looking at what is my favorite position in the fire service, and
Okay.
I think that was such a great question. I would have kept that one. I would have kept it and maybe said the 6 questions. I don't know, but I right now, I mean, obviously the company officer position, it is probably the most influential role of the fire service. I think they have an extremely high amount of impact on the direction of the organization, the people. They're developing people left and right, all that. And I loved my days working on the ladder truck. I loved my days in the training division and in teaching as a company officer. And it was simpler times, I should say. But being a BC, and the first year was, second year was better. But I got to tell you, I absolutely love being a battalion chief. And I think it is definitely the role for me. I've looked at other opportunities to go up and haven't got the opportunity to go up. And the more I start really doing some deep dive into me and who I am and the things that I believe in, the things that I like to do. I like developing people. I like watching my firefighters and my company officers grow and progress like a dad does.
Absolutely.
Like watching a kid grow.
Absolutely.
And so where I'm sitting now as a battalion chief is that a lot of the guys that work for me that were probies are now becoming company officers. And I absolutely love it. And
That's awesome.
I mean, do I want to go into a fire? Well, here's the benefit is because we use blue card and we send 2 battalion chiefs, the 2nd battalion essentially is a tactical boss and can be on the fire floor, if we want to call it that. And so I still have the opportunity. I'm not going to be cutting roofs and maybe one day we'll have a big fire that I'll be 2nd or 3rd battalion on, and they'll say, hey, we need somebody to go to the roof. You look like the guy that probably has the most experience to be
Still
able to do
has
that.
some skills left in the body.
I think if I get to be a roof division, I probably will just pop smoke then and just retire in the morning. And
I like it.
So, but I love being a battalion chief, and I get why everybody loves the captain, or I should say company officer role, but I'm really digging being a BC. So
that is awesome.
That's all I want.
I love the answer, and I love the passion behind it. And it's hard to argue the impact the company officer has. And we need more people that relish the impact they can have at BC to take the BC position, man. And that's, I think, every position, but 100%. All right, so.
All right, let's go for the new 5.
That being said, the new 5 is the new 5. I labored over these for a long time. Believe me, it was not easy. So, long story short, what single characteristic makes the difference between a run-of-the-mill firefighter and the top-tier, go-to, badass firefighter?
I'm not going to pretend like I didn't know this question was coming because these are tough questions. And so I appreciate the fact that you go, hey, you're going to get these 5 questions, and I want to set you up. I had to think hard on this, and
I'm glad.
I listened.
I'm glad.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I spent the entire day preparing for today's talk.
No pressure.
So yeah, and there's a lot of, if we're talking about a single characteristic, and it's very difficult to put it on a single characteristic. So the one that as I was starting to kind of like boil this down, that I found was grit. And the reason why I picked grit is when you look up the definition of grit, courage and resolve and a strength of character. And it talks about resiliency, and it talks about passion and perseverance. And so when I'm thinking about the individual that I want that separates them from being just an employee and an actual dedicated to the company is I want somebody that's committed. I want somebody who's a student. I want somebody who's passionate. I want somebody that, all of these things. And so if I'm looking for one word, grit seems to fit that, because perseverance tells me that they're going to be a student, tells me that they're going to be committed, because, they're going to get through this, right? They're not giving up. They're not like, well, I don't have the information. Screw it. I'm moving on. So they're going to be a good student, and they're not going to give up. Passion. We want somebody passionate for the job that we're doing. That separates the guy or gal that just is like there for the paycheck and maybe the good benefits, depending on where you're working. And it's like, man, I'll get out of the recliner when the call comes in. Right. So for me, it's grit. I think it checks all the boxes that I'm looking for a good firefighter. So
grit and passion, or is it grit or passion? Or I'm trying to clarify.
It's grit, because under grit, when you look at it, it talks about people that have grit have passion.
Okay, so it's pulled in there. Okay, no, okay,
it's pulled in there. But yeah, I mean, if you wanted me to use passion all day long,
no. I was just being clear on if it was one. I was making sure passion was included in the grit, because with the grit you get max points. No one said grit, first of all, and second of all, the fact that you said passion and consistency and resiliency are all encompassed under it, man. Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, and somebody that's resilient, that means that they're not going to stop, right?
Yes,
and they're going to
and won't give up at the first.
Exactly. It's not just a mental thing, or it's like they're resilient. They're going to make a mistake and they're going to bounce back.
Right.
And that, I mean, that builds to it. I know, like I listened to Galliano's, I wasn't able to be on it live, but I listened to Galliano's thing, and he talked about heart. And I'm like, absolutely. Heart is the key. Heart is the key, but I can't say heart, and match with Galliano. So I'm going with grit.
No, I love it. And that's what I love. Excuse me. There is no wrong answer. I suppose there probably is, and someone may someday give one, but the quality of the guest I have on, you just mentioned Galliano and yourself. The quality of guests I have on, they don't give wrong answers. Does that make sense? If you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice as a rookie, what would it be?
Well, my rookie year was a long time ago. So the first thing I would say is buy Microsoft stock and Apple stock. The Walkman is going to be
that might be go ahead.
The Walkman is going to be obsolete, and they're going to replace it with this thing called the iPod. And then they're going to make a phone that looks like the iPod. So you're going to make millions of dollars. So
I actually love that answer, but go ahead.
Yeah, in all honesty, the things that I have done poorly in my lifetime all stem around like recovery and sleep and rest and all those things. And in 2016, my dad suddenly passed away, and he was 69 years of age. And my dad was a workaholic, and he would work. He also umpired Little League baseball, and so he loved umpiring. So for him to do Little League baseball during the spring through the summer, he literally went into work at like 4:00 in the morning, would work until 2:00, and then he would umpire until 11:00 at night. And he would do that all spring and summer long. And he was a workaholic, and I have a lot of tendencies of my father. And when I look back to my early days of being a company officer, I had no problem staying up to 2:00 in the morning and trying to log like 3-4 hours of sleep. And,
right.
I've got my day off to rest and recover, or my day off to sleep. And more I've got into peer support and all these other different things. And, Dina is a great friend, and we've talked a lot about these things, is that
yes,
the amount of the importance that sleep has for us is important. So if I want to plug another book, it's Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. Sleep has a significant impact in our well-being, and health. And I think my dad, left this earth a little bit sooner than he needed to because of his poor sleep habits. I didn't do really well, on my recovery and my rest. I didn't take any of that serious. The other problem that I had early on, partly why I'm here and I'm part of groups like this, is that I've been very active. And so I probably should have spent a little bit more time dedicating time to family. You know, I am very, 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 very lucky to have my wife Jody, and she's my number one fan. But she's probably sacrificed more than, you know, all of my injuries and everything that I've done in the fire service. I think she's been injured more by shit that I've done and not having a good perspective on family. And that's probably why when you're looking at like how important family is to me now, and when I'm looking at my, you know, when we go back to retirement and why, you know, where's my mindset going to be? I know it's going to be challenged, but having a couple granddaughters and kid and living near where my kid is and being able to spend time with the wife is like, I think that is my absolute retirement plan is it's going to be all about family. So I wished I would have spent more time with family and doing family stuff and not have had a negative impact in that way. And so, yeah, that's what I would like to tell myself as a rookie. 1988.
Long answer. I loved it. I love the Microsoft. I love the first starting off by making myself rich. I really do, because that's honest. But also, man, family, dude, there's nothing more important. You made a post today on my wife's post that I posted, if that makes sense, that post. But you understand how important Amanda is to me because you have Jody, and that I mean it, man. It matters.
Are you going to be at COBC?
Yes, absolutely.
Is Amanda going to be there? Awesome.
Just booked our flights and making sure everything was lined up and days were off and all that stuff. So yes, absolutely.
I know this is not, I mean, this will tie to it, but Mike and Ann Galliano asked us to write in their book and their firefighter marriage book. And this is, and I'm just going to sidetrack just a little bit, but
go.
This is the way life is in the Fisher household. My wife and I, we were arguing as we're driving. We have to get this, this piece done for Mike and Ann. And we literally were arguing, not about that. We're arguing about some other bullshit thing.
Whatever life is. Yeah.
Whatever life is. And we're very frustrated with each other. And I love cooking. So when we get home, I'm going to be the one that's cooking. And she just goes into the office and she just starts writing. And she writes the piece that's in their book.
That is awesome to know the backstory.
And I got to tell you, man, she hands this to me and I'm still heated and frustrated. And I'm like, what is this? She's like, we got to get this thing done. And I'm reading this and it just kills me. How she tells the story, how she talks about, and she's talking about supporting me and she's talking about just us in general after we just got done with a pretty decent heated debate, or I shouldn't say debate. It was an argument,
fight,
and
I was mild fight, heavy argument.
I was stupid and yeah. And so I absolutely love her. I'm very fortunate to have her. And I love bringing her to, all the conferences I can go to. I love the fact that Kurt has this conference and he encourages the spouses to come. And so I think it's awesome. So yeah. So we'll see you guys in May.
Absolutely, man. Looking forward to it. Because I don't think I've met Jody. I really don't. But we'll see.
You know what? She wasn't at Water on the Fire. So yeah, you're probably right.
Yes. Well, that's number 2. And I will give you max points because family, I don't think there's anything better than no, I'm serious. Keeping priorities, keeping first things first, man. It's huge because this job will take it from you. Absolutely. In a heartbeat, it will. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I only done this a few times in the scrap, but I have to dump some Modelo. So we're going to pause in the middle of the 5 questions for firefighters. And I'm going to say, how can people get a hold of you? What's the best way to reach out to you, talk to you, etc.? Anything you want to plug, I'm going to give you, this is how much I trust you. I'm going to give you uncontrolled control of the scrap while I hit the head. So I'll be right back.
All right. Well, I appreciate it.
All you.
Thank you. Well, I guess the things that I'm going to plug is I got a couple of buddies that I work with that listen to this show, and they always say, hey, your name came up again. So Christian DeMonda, Joe Basta, 2 battalion chiefs in my department, they always talk about this show. And so I appreciate it. I'm sure they're going to be listening to some point. And I owe a lot to my former driver, Chad Berg. I think we worked 17 years together, and we have a great relationship. And I probably wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for having a good driver. And everybody at work likes to make fun of us and say that we're married. And well, we're kind of married because we work so long together. If you want to get a hold of me, it's Rob Fisher 72 at just about anything. So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, And my email is robfisher72@gmail.com. And what else can I speak to? I don't know. It's dead air, not having much to talk about. Hopefully you guys are enjoying this little conversation. Corley did drink, I think, 3 Modelo's, so we're trying to offload about 32 ounces of fluid. Oh, looks like here he comes. And yeah.
Many apologies, Rob. Did you hold it down?
I did hold it down.
Okay,
I did hold it down. So
now here's the deal. I always feel like I'm like last week. Mike crushed the next 5 questions. He crushed them, like absolutely crushed them. I think he maxed everything out, and I feel like am I just a big softy? So the audience has to definitely chime in and say, absolutely. The first 2 I have. It's always arbitrary. It's always my opinion. I don't think there's anything that needs to be justified, but. Put your thumbs up in there. Put your max points in there. Put your not max points in there. It's like help me, give me some direction because I don't want to be a big giant softy that always passes it out. You got to earn it is what I'm trying to say. So far you have, sir. I hope that makes sense.
Well, let me just say this. When I was in high school, I was a CD student. When I was in college, I was a B student. So if I'm getting an A-, I'm doing great. So it doesn't have to be 100%.
Hey, I love grit and I love keep first things first. So 100%, I don't care what anybody says. That's max points. Number 3, what is your favorite training drill?
Well, I would say that my favorite training drill is just fundamentals, just in general. And it's when I was on the company, I worked majority of my career on a ladder truck. Fundamentals were ground ladder work and forcible entry, and in our organization, a lot of vertical ventilation stuff. So I think, when you look at things and what we do, and if you were to even look at sports and coaches that are talking about sports, is like, it all comes down to fundamentals. And if you don't have a good grasp of the fundamentals, you can't do all the fancy shit. And I'm in a battalion chief role now. And so I can do these big, elaborate drills. And I'm not a big fan of the big, elaborate drill. I think that the small little operation, the little fundamental operation is better. So for me, when I was on the company as a company officer, it was ground ladders. And the reason why I loved ground ladders is because not everybody liked to do them. It set you apart from everybody else. And if you were good with ground ladders, you look like, on the fire ground, it was just like a choreographed event, and it looked like you were just superstars. So from the company officer side of things, it was basically ground ladders. From the battalion side of things, I still hang on to fundamentals. And what I love is, and I mentioned earlier, a lot of the guys that were probies when I was a company officer are now becoming company officers themselves. And one of the best things that I think battalion chiefs could do is go out and drill with their crews. And that doesn't mean that you have to go and throw ladders and force doors. I do like to force doors because I teach that. And I do like to throw ground ladders because I still can do it. But for the most part, I'm there to be part of and watch. And I just kind of like really dig watching my younger guys that were my students or my younger firefighters. It makes me feel so proud. And I love watching them organize and choreograph the training and, coordinate the training. It makes me feel really good. And then what I get out of it is, for a BC, it helps me with fire ground tempo. I know what's going on. I know, like, if I'm going to assign my ladder company to go to the roof, I roughly know what it's going to take for them to do that. If you're a battalion chief and you're sitting in the office, or you don't go out and watch these fundamental drills, you're missing the boat. Unless you work in a busy department that you guys are going on buildings and fighting fire on a regular basis. I think priority 1 for a battalion chief, other than, resource management, should be going out and monitoring the drills of their crews. And I'm not there to tell them how to do things. I'm there to watch, be a proud papa, basically, but yes. To watch and understand, but also, what's my fire ground tempo.
Also understand what they're going through, man. And that's beautiful. And I love this. Thank you, guys. That's what I'm talking about here, because I want to give him max points. You know what I'm saying? And then Kyle Condiff comes in and just kind of says, fundamentals and basics are the key to overall success. Stick to the basics. Max points. He says it, right? Valerie Marshall, max points, all caps. Love chiefs that come out and train the basics. There you go. Fisher is the best. Practices what he preaches. Yes. But no, that's what I'm wanting. I want to know that I'm not just being a softy and like, oh, I like Rob, so I'm going to give him max points. No, dude, you earned it. Great. 3 for 3. No pressure. Moving forward. Number 4. What mistake have you learned the most from in your fire service career?
Oh man, it it has to do with relationships, and so I have been passed up on promotion back in 2016, and I shouldn't even say passed up. I mean, the way that as we've been, as change of leadership is, you never passed up. You weren't selected, and so it's just changing of the terminology. But I had scored number 1 on the BC list for multiple years. Tactically, I was sound. I was sound in a lot of different areas. And what I didn't realize and what I just didn't do enough of is foster good relationships. Because when we look at it, when you really are looking at it, and very, very few of us will ever be in a position of fire chief, but ultimately the fire chief gets to make that decision. And it really comes down to trust. Because, I've heard chiefs say that when they're handing out the bugle for a company officer or whatever it is like they're handing one of the bugles off of their bugles and giving it to them. That's, it's part of the responsibility or part of, and if you don't have trust, if you haven't built trust between you and those above you, you're not going to get anywhere. So one of the biggest things that I really screwed up on is I had not fostered trust, and I probably was too aggressive. Well, I know I was too aggressive. I made comments that I probably shouldn't have made comments on. And I just, my ego was probably too big. And I'm like, look, nobody knows as much as I do. I'm, I teach everywhere.
Right.
I do all these things. And so that was the negative side of it. The positive side of it, or I should say the other part of it, is it's not just relationships with at home. You got to think about those, but I wouldn't be here talking with you today if it wasn't for relationships that I had fostered on the national level. So my focus was more on a bigger scale and not so much at home. I mean, I was doing a lot of things at home, but I was fostering relationships and networking across the nation,
country. Yeah.
And when I should have probably spent more time at home and focusing more of my efforts at home. So it's good and bad. I mean, I wouldn't be probably here talking right now if I didn't foster the relationships on a national level. But I will say that I probably suffered. And I heard this from Ed Hatfield, from one of the guys that first gave me an opportunity to teach long time ago. And he said, Rob, you'll never be a prophet in your own town. And that is so true. I can consult on ladder operations and quint operations everywhere I go. But you come back here and some of it is because of, who you are and what you do. And I think probably I did a lot of things that was negative to my position. And I've got a lot of fans here in my department, in my region and everything, but you have the wrong fans, and I didn't have the fans that are sitting in the level that, get to make those final decisions. And so that was a big mistake on my part that, and I mean this genuinely, I should have taken that into consideration, and somebody should have punched me in the face to say, you've got a lot of relationships outside, but you did not foster relationships at home. And this is going to come back to haunt you. If I were to use somebody like Brian Brush, everybody likes Brian Brush.
Absolutely.
Brian he's phenomenal. Absolutely. And he is able to take, like, being a chief officer, and he's able to straddle both of those and do really well in both realms. And I didn't do really well at home. And so, I paid the price. I think I did. And my approach was probably too strong at home. And that goes back to 10 pounds of pressure 100% of the time. If I'm punching people in the face and I'm not building trust, then, sometimes those guys are going to promote up above you and they're going to be your boss, and it is what it is. So
absolutely. And if you know me, I teach a class called the 9 L's of Leadership, which basically comes down to trust. So anybody says trust is important, you're gonna win. And as far as consistency goes, you tied it right back into advice. And 100%, man, family, keeping first things first. So Anyway, max points for number 4. Let's see how you do on the last question. No pressure again. Heavy fire. The original number 5. Heavy fire, searchable space. Would you, I think I know, but I'm going to let you answer. Would you rather be assigned to the nozzle or first in on VES?
Well, Corley, I'm going to tell you, I'm assuming I'm not the battalion chief. If I was a battalion chief, I'm going to be doing VES. Trust me, I have no problem getting out of my buggy, running up if I know somebody's there, taking a window and doing what I need to do. Now, I'm saying that, and I'm violating many laws here in the state of Washington, but yeah, I would do that, and I'd be really happy with that. But I think the answer really comes down to, and as I was thinking this, because I know what everybody wants to hear. They want to hear me say VES, and the nozzle nerds want to hear, they want to go, oh man, if it isn't for the nozzle. And I'm going to take this as an opportunity to just kind of share some perspective. And that is, and I learned this from Jay Bonifield of all people. And the truck is a supportive operation. They support every function, everybody else on the fire ground. But it was Jay Bonifield that and this was young Jay. I mean, this was Jay when he was first coming to the department and teaching in our county fire academy. He was the first one that I heard actually say, the engine supports the search. And I'm like, you're right. You know what? I've never even thought of it that way. And in reality is in a lot of organization, the truck does the search, and the engine has to support that search. Once we've decided that we have nothing found or the clear of the building, then the truck supports the engine. Everybody supports engine operation. So I would just say that our priority is saving life. If I have the opportunity to save the life, I'm going to do it. But I will say that depending on what position you're in, you have to be good at the position that you're sitting in. So if I'm sitting on an engine and I'm going to a fire, my job is to put the line between the victim and the fire. My job is to support the search or VES operation. If I'm on the truck, my job would be to get to that person and rescue that person. So it depends on what my assignment is. Now, if you're giving me the choice to decide if I want to be on the engine that day or on the truck, I'm going to pick the truck. Come on. And I can tell you the reasons why. And that the truck is different than the engine because what I loved about the truck was, how do you fight, or how do you do the jobs that we do without having water? Because everybody talks about the nozzle as the eraser. Use your nozzle as an eraser and erase the fire. But when you don't have an eraser, and you have a permanent marker, and you could screw things up, I love that challenge. I love the thinking game that a truckie has to have, and the things that they do. I love that it's, when you go to a fire, you don't just get a stretch line and try to get it to where the fire is. So I know this is a kind of a long answer to it, but
I love the beautiful direction it's taken as you've meandered through answering it. I'm waiting to hear the final answer. It's like, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yeah, Who Wants to Be? I would
final
just say,
answer.
My final answer is, whatever position you in, you better be good at that position, and you better live that position. And if you're a truckie sitting in the nozzle seat because you're on overtime, or you did a trade or whatever it is, you better be on the nozzle, and you better be doing the job because somebody's counting on you. This is all about teamwork. And if you're an engine guy and you love stretching line, and today you're working overtime on the truck, you better get your ass up that ladder, get that window vented, and you better get in there and get that person. And if you get the photo, it is what it is. It doesn't really matter. I don't give a shit about the photo myself. I just want to do my job, and I want to do it right. So
I was really, really close on not doing it until you said, I don't give a fuck about the photo. I just want to get in there and do the job right. So
yeah.
100%.
You can give me 95%. I don't even know if I've even heard you give anything other than you don't answer or you give them 100%. So give me 95.
No. You earned it on the final answer. I really do think, because again, man, it's like you're in my brain, because I have whole slides dedicated to, I don't care if you have nozzles. I don't care if you have combinations. I don't care if you run a shitty triple or a flat load or the greatest load ever, the Minuteman. Bottom line,
we have bulk beds, so
be good at what you have, man. That's it. Be good at what's on your rig. Be good at your assignment. And so, if you give that answer, I have to do it, and I'm gonna say it. You got a lot here. People saying, Smoothbore Cartel said Nozzle nerd with the raised hand emoji. Facts. He said facts. So you got a fax out of him. There's a big heart from Matt Donnie. Someone said, get the F out. It's okay, Rob. We can't all be winners. Again, from your buddy Kyle Romagus. Yeah, it's beautiful. The entering.
We know it.
Yes.
You know what's funny is Romagus.
You went 5 for 5. I'm going to say it officially. You went 5 for 5 because of the strong finish. The meandering almost lost it, but the strong finish was there. It was there. You closed.
Well, the thing that just to close it out really quickly, the thing that bugs me is that here's a great example. And I know we don't normally talk EMS on this. Like, look, if you're going to be a paramedic, be the best paramedic you can possibly be. Period. And I'm not big into EMS, and some people believe like, oh man, Rob hates paramedics. No, I don't hate paramedics. I hate lazy people. I hate people that don't want to take their job serious. Because if I were to have a heart attack at the command post, which is a greater chance of me having a heart attack at the command post than a firefighter dying doing vertical ventilation. But if I have a heart attack at the command post, do you think I want some dipshit paramedic that doesn't give a shit about it? All he cared about or she cared about was having a good pay and time off? No. I want if
you want the paragod. Yes.
I want the paragod. I want
four sets of scissors, like two, like yes. Coming in.
I want they know everything, and they're looking at every little tid. I want the best of the best taking care of me. And we do so many different things. And in one class that I was in when at Tech Rescue and the guy that was teaching the rope rescue, Reed Thorne, teaching this rope rescue stuff. And he goes, you know what I hate about you firefighters and rope rescue? You guys are plate spinners. You're just spinning the plate. And when the plate slows down, you're going to go over and you're going to spin it. And you like do a little rope rescue, do a little EMS, do a little bit of fire, do all this.
There's some confined space.
Yeah, you're terrible. You never do anything good. And here we do. I mean, you get into an organization and you start dividing up EMS and truck work and engine work. Well, I tell you what, if you're going to be assigned to the ladder truck and you put in to be a ladder truck, then be really good at being on the ladder truck. Do everything ladder truck and be very good at it. If you want to make fun at the guys on the engine, I get it. It's easy. Don't worry about it. Just go ahead. But think about this when you make fun of the guys on the engine, is that you want them to do their job good too. Imagine if we all just enjoyed having each other's company and we were a team.
Nirvana.
So that's my 2 cents on the. I'll take any position. Basically, if you can get me to a fire and I get to stretch a line or I get to do VES, I'm all over it. I'll do it as a BC. I'll do it as a company officer. I'll do it riding backwards. I don't care. But whatever it is going to be, whatever position I'm sitting in, I'm going to do it the best of my ability. So
love the answer, dude. The passion right there on that sermon right there at the end was worth the entire. And I want you to know, I don't know where Mike finished at, but we're at 1 hour and 57 minutes. I just want you to know, I'm not.
I think Mike's 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Okay. We're not going to catch him unless we just really go long. I don't know what you got to say while I was taking my bathroom break, but that is officially 131 scraps in the books. Max points back to back. Mike Galliano, Rob Fisher. If someone wants to get a hold of you, do you want to do that again? I don't know what you said already.
Yeah, I just said it's Rob Fisher 72 at just about anything. So it's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Solid.
And Rob Fisher 72 at gmail.com.
Anything you want to plug? Anything coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate to where I'm at in the fire service. And, I love being a part of Brothers in Battle. And I know everybody keeps on saying, are we going to have a firemanship conference again? And there's a lot of things that are changing in BIB. And I'll just say that it's definitely not dead. Trust me, the Cody and everybody wants to get things going again. And hopefully that's on. So I love, I get to hang out and help out with county fire tactics and I love helping out there. And so I'll be at COBC with my wife. This May. I think we're going to be at Water on the Fire together. I will for sure be at Water on the Fire, and I will be at H-Rock again at the end. That'll be the last H-Rock. And we have a conference in May before COBC. Literally, I'm flying from one conference to the other. But that is our small conference for the Ride in the Right Seat. So if you can't get to us this year, Ryan and I are working on 2023. And because I'm going to be living in Vegas, we're trying to think of maybe somewhere in Vegas to have have some good stuff there. So if you're in the Fools, reach out to me. God, I don't even know what else to say, but yeah, I'm very fortunate to be where I'm at, and I appreciate being here and appreciate you having me with a large. I mean, I look at like Mike Galliano, Rhodes is following me up. You squeeze me in between there, and I know Cody he'd give me shit if I started downplaying my position, but those are two big wigs that I'm sitting in between, and I'm honored to be with them. And you've had some phenomenal.
Dude, I'm blessed. I'm blessed with the quality of the guest of mine tonight, and yeah, dude, they keep saying yes, and I keep getting blown away by the fact that they say yes. So, yeah, very happy about it.
You have that coin that I sent you?
Yes, I got I got multiples in front of me here that you sent.
Well, not the Puget Sound Fools one, but that other coin. That coin is special, and I just want to this is for you. And
is it this the international?
It's the international coin.
So am I holding up the right one? Because there's another.
Nope. There's another one.
There's also the one.
Yep. So that coin right there. That coin right there is an executive board coin, and each of us executive board members got 7 of those. And I think this is the second coin issued from the e-board, and you are the recipient of it. And I just want to say, Corley, that and there's a couple more that I'm going to be passing out, but we just recently, I shouldn't say we got these coins last year, and we've been sitting on them, and each of us got 7. And I just want to say I try to catch the weekly scrap. A lot of times I can't get it live. I have to listen to it elsewhere, but I try to catch it. And I think you are a change maker in the American Fire Service, and those coins go to people that are doing good for the American Fire Service, and that are, taking care of our firefighters and doing all the good stuff. And so that, I believe, is number 2 coin from the e-board, and I appreciate everything that you've done. So,
well, I'm 100% honored, man, to hear that, because I don't know what to say, but thank you. To hear that, beautiful. Yeah,
that's all I got. That's all I'm feeding.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm not good at that kind of stuff. Firehousevigilance.com. Go there. Support the scrap. Rob Fisher's here. I want to hit a few things before I go. One of them is my man Kyle Lewis, the Cato Cooker, coming up. I'm trying to get the dates here. Cato Cooker coming up. I wanted to shout out about it. I'm trying to get the dates. Looking. 2022 live fire training, Cato Cooker, Friday, April 8th and 9th. So it's coming up here in like 2 weeks. If you can, get tickets to the event. Go there and support it. It's an amazing thing. If you saw my video from the Mutts Don't Scrap from CFT Fire School, this cat runs around in his underwear like selling out to make VES and fire training legitimate. So 100% go support that. You can type in Cato Cooker on Facebook and find it and get tickets to it and go support it. So that's the one I wanted to shout out to. Also coming up, let me see here. First in Arkansas, 100%, man. The lineup here is amazing. I am speaking there. I'm teaching my classes. You got Chief Scott Thompson, Kyle Romagus, Reinwald, Mo Davis, Clyde Gordon. Man, if you don't get fired up about that, I don't know what you cannot get fired up about. So it's going to be in Little Rock, right outside of Little Rock, and just get your tickets for that. And then the final thing I wanted to shout out tonight was in Seguin, Texas, May 20th through the 22nd is the Legacy Fire Conference. Again, I'm trying to throw a lot of stuff at you. I'm emceeing this event. I actually wrote notes here. It's really, really cool because Rob Fisher inspired me. And
well, those FD tactic guys are top notch, dude.
Without a doubt. On my keynote speech, like I got some ideas for it that I got from Rob Fisher today that's going to play into that, and it's going to be amazing. So, bottom line is, first in Legacy, the Cato Cooker. I wanted to shout out to all those. The coins, man, I always try to show off the coins, and I showed them off earlier. Let me pull up so I can see when it snaps into focus here. Man, it's just so cool. Rob, you sent these to me, and you got me emotional because you sent me something that was like very special. Man, thank you. That's really, really cool. So, anyway,
well, hey man, I just want to tell you I love you, brother. I appreciate everything you're doing, and so just keep it going. And I look forward to maybe having another talk another day, another time.
We will.
And,
we will.
I will see you in May.
Oh, I feel like we barely scratched the surface. Chief David Rhodes is coming up a week from today, and then the Mega Scrap. Jim McCormick, Basil Ibrahim, Rob Ramirez, Mega Scrap on Nothing But Writ and Mayday. That's going to close out lead off April. So anyway, long story short, thank you all. Mutts don't scrap. I hope the tone stays silent. Thank you, Rob Fisher, for being an amazing guest, and I hope the tone stays silent. Unless it's burning, stay safe out there.